Today's book on my Halloween book challenge is Witch by Christopher Pike. And I just finished this book yesterday. And this is quite a book. I never read this one when I was a kid, but I did read Christopher Pike books. I have a few of them still, but this was the only one I could find real quick. It was called Remember Me, and I haven't read this book since the early 90s, so I don't even remember what this one is about. But the very first book I ever bought with my own money at a bookstore was Slumber Party by Christopher Pike. I was very excited to buy that book. I was 11. Yep. But I do remember his books kind of sometimes had some things in them that at 11 years old I was kind of like, should I be reading this book? And this book is definitely like that. I don't know if I would let my 11-year-old read it if I had an 11-year-old, but whatever. So this book is crazy. It's just action-packed. It's like a really bad 80s horror TV movie, or like a 70s like revenge movie that's really awful but good. You know, like a really bad movie that's just so bad it's good. That's what this is. This book was so fun to read. It's crazy violent. There's just so much violence. There's like teenagers going to the mall and buying shotguns and then going to like a shootout at a liquor store. It's crazy. And they're like stealing cop cars and like disguising themselves as doctors and breaking into the intensive care unit at the hospital. Just crazy stuff happens in this book. And yes, it is a horror story because the main character is a witch. It's very interesting. And then there's the main character, she has an aunt who's in a coven. I think you need more than 2 other people for it to be a coven, but maybe it can be a coven with 3 people. I'm not sure. I'm not up on my witch stuff that much. But so she has this like really old aunt, which I mean I don't quite understand because her mother was young and her aunt seems to be like absolutely elderly, but whatever. And she drives around in this car with these 2 other ladies, and they all wear black and just look spooky. It's pretty cool. I wish she had gone into that a little more. It's so much fun. And originally, so I haven't thought of Christopher Pike since the 90s, but this year's American Horror Story, like the artwork for the posters for the ads, like just completely reminded me of these covers. That's kind of why I pulled this out, like, if you know what I'm talking about. So it kind of made me want to read some Christopher Pike again because I was getting nostalgic. So those are perfect for American Horror Story. I'm really liking this season. It's kind of iffy with that show, but this season is really good so far. But anyways, back to Christopher Pike. So I wrote down, okay, so there's this, like, hilarious description. Let me see, I'm going to read you this. This is, like, right at the beginning on page 13 here. Let me find it. Okay, so here she's describing the boy that she likes. Okay, this is great. This is absolutely wonderful. Besides, she wasn't attracted to Scott. It wasn't his fault that he wasn't handsome in a classic way. He was definitely eye-catching, however. Even across the miles that separated them, Julia found herself leaning closer to get a look at him. Oh, she can see, like, through distances. That's, like, her witch power. She can look into a lake and see what's going on in some other part. She only has, certain powers. Okay, so anyways. To get a better look at him. His face was perfectly round, and his skin tone was ruddy, slightly orangish. So basically he's an Oompa Loompa, right? She and Amy had nicknamed him the Great Pumpkin. The blue in his eyes was so bright as that of a Christmas tree light. Scott was one of those people who glowed, who was always friendly, always in a great mood. Julia watched as he reached for a bag of French fries and saw Amy poke his belly and mouth the word fat. Yeah, that was great. Perfectly round face and orange? What? I don't know. Okay, and then I have this other one. I don't remember what this is, but I thought it was great, so we're gonna look at that now. This is Julia and Frank is like this total delinquent that sells drugs and robs liquor stores and drives a motorcycle and kills people. Yeah, I don't know. He's like 18 years old and this is what he does. But anyways, okay, so this is what it says. He regarded her for a moment, and that something that had seemed to be missing from his eyes flashed briefly. It confused Julia, but a flash in the dark wasn't the same as a sunrise. Frank hardened once more. "Go to hell," he said, repeating her line of a second ago. You go first and tell me how the weather is." Julia felt justified. She tightened her grip on the trigger. Then she heard a noise, a very loud noise. So the dialogue in this book is just completely like ridiculous like that. It's actually really great. So I mean, it depends what you're looking for when you go into reading this book. I had fun with this book. I enjoyed this book. It's, you know, it's not the greatest writing, like the most serious writing in the world, but it's pretty awesome for what it is. It's pretty hilarious too. I enjoyed that. So I think I am gonna go back and relive some of my Christopher Pike books and read some of them and maybe get some other ones. I was looking at them online. There's some that sound pretty interesting. I'll have a little Christopher Pike moment this fall. But I'm gonna continue on with my Halloween challenge book list that I have, and the next book is going to be The Doll in the Garden, which is another kids book but slightly younger audience. This is really probably junior high, high school should be reading that book. Alright, so I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.